Well, thanks for joining me today, John. Today's discussion is going to be focused on Hyperbots AI co-pilots on Sage 300. And was just curious, John, what makes Hyperbots AI co-pilot a natural fit for Sage 300?
Yeah. Um, One of the main challenges is when companies are using a product like Sage 300 and there's just so many manual activities they'd like to do, and they're looking for a way to automate more things in it, make it work better for them. Hyperbots brings in Copilot, brings in AI automations that otherwise you just have to do manually. So the big opportunity there is there's a ready-made connector that's already integrated with Sage 300 and leverages, the web API and native SDK. It exposes all the finance objects like the chart of accounts, GL, vendor master, um, really just everything that you need to access. So pretty quick integration. From what I'm looking at, the deployments are pure configuration and everything stays in Sage. It's just that Hyperbots will enable you to automate more than you were doing before.
Sure. And how long does it typically take to get a co-pilot live on Sage 300?
Well, it's an integration like any other. So you got to align the data and make sure everything's coordinated correctly. The full cutover is going to take about 2 to 4 weeks usually, from what I've seen. That's pretty normal for an AI integration into any type of ERP system. Um, it really comes down to your company's organization as far as API credentials, mapping sessions, and just kind of planning around what it's going to take.
Sure, makes sense. And how often does Hyperbots sync data with Sage 300, and what cadence would you recommend from your experience?
Yeah. Thanks. It really comes down to what's the kind of the frequency of the data itself. You just think about how active does data change. Real time is nice, but a lot of times you don't really need that, and it can, create confusion around different areas. So focusing on the metadata, that can be done real time, hourly, daily, weekly, whatever is appropriate. Weekly is oftentimes good enough. When you think about master data, like the vendors, the GL accounts, and those things, if you're changing those need to be in place. It can screw things up if they're not connected. So if you're not changing it very often, then that might be fine. But to the degree your vendors are changing, your items are changing, then daily is probably needed for those. Maybe less often for GL accounts if you're not updating them very often. And then transactional data is the key one, usually for any type of ETL or integration. You want them to be aligned at least hourly is the right idea. Real time if needed, but mostly the key thing there is just making sure that your team knows that something might wait an hour to get updated in the system. Um, but any type of writes, any type of connections that you're having to transactional data, that needs to be real time. It's usually the best.
Of course. Very customizable at the end of the day, and really whatever fits your processes best. And how does each Copilot automate a typical Sage 300 task for you?
Yeah. Well, one thing I like about Hyperbots is that you're enabling it through different types of copilots, and so depending on what the need is, those options are there. Invoice processing is enabled to do OCR. A lot of times, OCR can be built into products, but what Hyperbots enables is kind of that advanced, basically less touches are required. With accruals, it's able to make recommendations around what those accruals would be and the different types of integrations. Um, with PR, PO, it can build out the requisitions, build out the contracts, check budget, stuff like that. And then really enable vendor management, payments, sales tax verification, those kind of go together, and all the types of areas where if you just think about where would a manual analysis be required or lookup, think about lookups. It's able to look up the different types of things for you and recommend them based on what it's seen before and make suggestions for that you can review. You always want to have the man in the middle or the person in the middle, but really all those key types of sometimes very manual processes that have risks in them. Um, One of the key areas that add value is your clerk's trying to move quickly through these processes, and the AI is able to, or the co-pilot is able to prevent errors if or that are often made and create mapping errors in your GL.
Sure. And as far as exception goes, so how does Hyperbots actually handle the exceptions or write the failures back to Sage?
Yeah. It's pretty cool actually. So like it's able to take whatever you write into the hyperbots and every write is followed by a readback. So it's doing that kind of double check and making sure the systems are stayed in sync. There's discrepancies around, you know, could trigger 3 automatic retries. So it'll keep trying to make sure the connections are in sync and then drop it into an exception queue so you can validate it and look things up and manage it if there is an error. Nothing reaches the GL unless it's verified.
100%. That's what I was going to say, just making sure all that data is verified and accurate before it is posted to the GL.
Yeah.
What safeguards are in place for security, data integrity, and customization?
Yeah. I just say all the stuff that you'd expect or that you'd want to see there. So the different encryptions are there, SOC 2 compliance, ISO compliance is available. So kind of like check the box on those. Role-based tokens that just align with security from Sage. And you can also have additional security relating to field mapping, like if the certain fields are have certain read-write requirements. One of the other opportunities that's a little unique because of the finance systems is the multi-currency tables. So making sure that you don't, screw those up, or there's different potential fraud things that can happen if people are messing with your currency tables. And also being able to see what company you're working on. So just being able to look at it from a single pane to manage each individual company that's in flight.
Sure. And what happens if we, or you, for your case, upgrade Sage or migrate to another ERP system?
Well, it's usually pretty difficult. But one of the good things here is that Hyperbots is kind of unique and has built out this AI interface in a consistent way. Connectors are versioned, so you're able to see what version you're on and map it over to a different other version. It's an abstracted middleware layer, is a nice way to think about it. Just leave it at
Sure.
that.
And how do you guarantee that every right transaction into Sage is successful?
Well, I don't. The AI takes care of it. It's a short answer. The after posting a batch journal or whatever it is, the connector is going to be validating and rereading that record to make sure it was posted. It aligns you up with this like kind of little checkbox thing. So, same way you would old school on paper. I remember making lots of check marks on paper.
Yep.
So it's just retrying it and alerting you if something doesn't go through all the way. So it lets you know.
Awesome. And then how does Hyperbots handle Sage 300 specific nuances and customizations that you've seen?
Mhm. Yeah, it is a little bit different than some of the others. Optional fields, subledger batches, multi-currency. The good news is you built them all into the connector for the Hyperbots connector. So anything gets pushed to the GL pragmatically, um, the rules will follow it and it's all tied out.
Sure. And last question I have for you today, John. How is Hyperbots agentic AI on Sage different from other AI add-ons, including Sage's own AI features that they have to offer today?
Yeah, we're really just trying to identify that additional value add. So a lot of other tools that are similar might offer OCR or statistic analysis. The difference here is kind of thinking about it as the workflow. So, if you think about the manual activities or the different automation that exists in a software as a solution service like, software as a service like Sage, there's still different pieces in that workflow that are manual. And so looking at those manual lookups, looking at the reviews, um, the Hyperbots agents are like tying together all those different steps and essentially trying to do them for you, identifying it. What I've seen overall and with Hyperbots and just with AI in general is doing the type of approach that Hyperbots is taking with finance trained models allows you really just like almost 100% field extraction accuracy, like 99.8 or whatever it is, driving significant productivity gains and I've seen it where it's 80% productivity accuracy through the P2P compared to like it's 30% less lift than if you just have regular OCR. There's just more accuracy, more workflows are in there. So it kind of just makes it takes what you have from a SaaS perspective and then finds the manual pieces and automates those pieces that were manual before.
Awesome. Well, that is all I had for you today, Jon. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll look forward to chatting with you again here soon.
Yeah, my pleasure.